myself, Murphy G. We have a special guest with us, Tim Ryan, who is running for County Commissioner of Coweta, specifically District 3.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Also got the great Alan Black in here with us.
Boop, boop.
Yes, sir. Excited to have you on, man.
Thank you very
Looking forward
much.
to
I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you got your Frasers in. You're all tasted up now.
Yeah, man, we're full.
Good.
Ready to conquer the day.
That's right.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys having me in. I really do.
Yes, sir.
It's an important election coming up, so.
Yeah. Jeremy, you want to bring us into it?
Yeah, man. Give us some history. We were talking before we started recording on a little bit with you, but give us some history of you.
Let's see. I was born in California to Californian parents. My mom and dad were both born there. Dad went to Santa Clara University, and my mom went to UCLA. And then I moved to Philadelphia. I don't remember California. I was a small, one. And then we moved to Philadelphia. And then when I turned about 5, I remember the snow. I remember going to a Flyers game. And I remember moving to Georgia. We moved to Stone Mountain in the first planned community in the state of Georgia. It's a place called Stone Mountain. It's your classic, country club, middle-class America. A lot of Eastern Airline pilots. Biff Pocaroba lived in our neighborhood, old catcher for the Braves. Mm-hmm. And it was just a really good middle class, 400 kids on the swim team. I mean, we had 8 tennis courts. It sounds like suburban, heaven, but it was nice. And I lived there with my mom and dad, my sister. And I went to Redan, and then through some changes, I went to St. Pius. The area was starting to change, and, Stone Mountain's pretty much, it's there, but the community that I grew up in is no more, essentially, and people moved to Peachtree City and this faraway place called Alpharetta when I was a kid. It was so far away. And anyways, went to Pius. My dad got sick. He actually contracted AIDS through a blood transfusion back in the old days when that was not even had a name. And anyways, he passed away in 94, but I stayed at home. I went to Georgia State University. And my sister was a fast pitch pitcher and ended up going to Tech on a scholarship. So we all kind of stayed local and graduated from Georgia State. I put myself through college going door to door, selling the Atlanta Journal-Constitution back when people still read the paper, at least that one. And that was great. Did that for a whole bunch of time, made a bunch of money. And then started working in sales right out of school and being a territory manager, covering 8 states, selling pressure-sensitive tape and adhesives, which was a cool job because everything from salad dressing to bulletproof vests, somebody uses tape in their manufacturing process. In fact, this mic probably has some double-coated, in it. And I did that for a while. And then I got into a motorcycle. Okay, it was a scooter accident, and that's how I have this sort of Indiana Jones scar on my lip. And I was in a kind of a coma for about 5 days. I missed 5 days of my life.
Dang.
I was wearing flip-flops, shorts, and a T-shirt, and an open-faced helmet. Going to the vortex, trying to have some hamburgers with some buddies after work, and woke up in Grady, and came out of that and decided I didn't want to. Not that I didn't want to make money, but that I needed to do something different. Something was missing in my life. I also wasn't going to church as much back then, too, so I think I was missing some spirituality. But ended up starting to figure out what I wanted to do. I worked at Home Depot as a lot associate for a while. And I had the money, so I had time to do it. During this time, I met my wife. We went to high school together, but we're in different cliques. And then when Facebook came out in '08, everybody was scrolling to see what people looked like. I mean, you guys are younger than me, but you're like, yeah, you wanted it. It was like a yearbook. And I saw my Patricia, and I was like, wow, knockout. So I pursued that. Anyways, when we were getting together and knew we were going to get married, I was like, hey, I'm gonna substitute teach for a little while and check that out, and I went and subbed at all the schools around Stone Mountain that were like rivals, like the schools that I'm gonna go to Southwest DeKalb and Stone Mountain and check it out. And I ended up falling into middle school. I really liked it, and I like 6th grade because then you get them from baby school to get him like, hey, here's where you're going to cut your teeth. And it's nice because you can have failure in middle school because you start your freshman year with a 4.0. So there's no damage, that academically that gets done there. But you need to experience some failure. Life's about how you handle that, right? So I did that, and I really, really enjoyed it. And then after teaching for about 17 years, I couldn't believe it was that long. It never was supposed to be that long. But I was in DeKalb County for a long time and got a lot of stuff done. I believe in corporate America responsibility and accountability, and so I think I brought that to school. And then after that, I work for a company selling signage. In fact, just 2 of the signs here locally that I've done. I do it nationally, but the Arbor Beverage Center, that took forever to get built. The DOT was holding them up. They've got a really nice sign. If you've ever seen the building, it's very unique. And then I was lucky enough to do the Curious Kitchen, here on Bullsboro. So
Nice.
that's a great restaurant. Bunch of good guys running that whole situation. So that's what I do, and got into running because when I moved here, I bought 11 acres, and I built my own house. I mean, I GC'd it, and I started to hear about this data center thing, and this is way back, this Project Peach. And I'm like, well, hey, that's only about 5 miles from my home. Let me start going to the commissioner meetings. And I had experience. I've renovated and flipped about 5 houses. Not that I was flipping them to sell, just I'd move, and then we'd fix it up, and then I'd sell it. And then when I met my wife, she already had a house. So I didn't want to be a landlord, so we've, kind of flipped that one. So I had to get like 4 or 5 variances in the city of Atlanta, which is a task. So I kind of had some exposure to government in that way. Anyways, went down to 37 Perry, right down the street, where they have the commissioner meetings. And my phrase really is I just didn't decide to run. I decided in that room. And it was watching my commissioner not do the things I think that you need to do and be in that network. I've kind of realized that like roughly 50 people run this entire town. Don't ask me how I got to that number, but I sort of was doing some counting of some names, and I know they're all good people. I just think sometimes you need an outsider, to get it done. In fact, I remember one of the barons that won the Citizen of the Year. I was at the Citizen of the Year event. I can't remember which one. I know they've all won it at some point. Very nice guy. And I remember him standing up there as I was sitting there listening to him, and he said, "Hey, Noonan, I've known all of you forever and ever. But just remember that I see a lot of new faces out here at this event, and just remember, be nice to them because they're part of the future of what's happening with Noonan and Coweta County." And I was kind of moved by that. And that wasn't why I ran, but it was just another confirmation kind of what I was doing was something good. And I care about my community deeply, and I think having somebody with good values that shares with the community but doesn't have any contacts. I got no real estate holdings. And that's a great profession, and construction too. But when you're voting on those things, I don't ever want to have to recuse myself for something, So there kind of is in a nutshell, right there.
Yeah. So how long have you lived in Coweta?
I think coming up on 4 years.
Okay.
I lived. We moved in. I bought the land, and we moved into Timber Ridge. So I lived over there because it was right around the corner from. I live off Cedar Creek, so it just made sense. We're very lucky to get in there. Although a corporation owned the house, that's another problem. All these corporations buying up homes. Yeah. It was crazy. And while I GC'd the house, I lived there. And then when I was finishing the house, I didn't want to sign another year mortgage. It was like $2,400 to rent the place. So we got a fifth wheel, and I rented that. And my family and I lived in that for about 11 or 12 months. While a lot of showers at the YMCA, I can tell you that. A couple times I went down to the Pilot on, which, hey man, $17 gets you a hot shower and a talk with the truck driver. And it was nice. That's a nice truck stop, I guess, if you will. But anyways, we're in our place now, and it's been really great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Jeremy got some experience with living in a camper for a little bit.
Yeah, we did that.
Were you building your place or something?
Yeah, we were building a home.
Yeah, that's the move. Did you live on the property as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah, we have well water, so it worked out great. I can't say we ever went to the bathroom in it, though. I ended up getting a little porta potty. I think it's called like the Poo Poo Brothers or something, where it's like weekly they'll come and take care of it for you. They're meant for people like us.
Yeah.
And so my wife didn't like it so much,
Yeah.
She didn't like it when it was winter time outside, and it's like outhouse. I mean, we got to experience what it was like to live in an outhouse, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a different way. Our family really we embraced it. To be honest with you, we there was no complaining, there was no whining, and we got close. Because there was no other option.
That's right. Well, and you know that there's light at the end of the tunnel. So
Yeah.
if that's a permanent situation,
Right. It's probably a little bit different.
that's
but,
right. And kids love it. My daughter's like, I get the top bunk. I mean, she had the best room of the whole place,
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
as long as it's good for her as adults, we handled it. We made it work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, how would you define leadership?
Leadership to me is my dad. When I was growing up, he always had those catchphrases. A repeated mistake is a decision. Things like that. I mean, and a lot of platitudes, I guess, too. But I think leadership is really about what you do when nobody's looking. How you act to the people in life. And I've always been felt like I've had kindnesses for the service industry folks. The ones that are behind the scenes making civilization work. And I've always sort of felt like those people and that economic class wasn't always looked out for. And so, my wife always thought I should be a consumer advocate, or an attorney or something like that. I've always been an agitator, trying to fix something that I think is broken or to represent people. So leadership to me is really about using your talents to help others. And I mean, politics is the use of the control of resources, money. If you really think about it, that's what it all boils down to, and rights, some laws. But leadership for me is about what you do with your abilities to help other people and to lead other people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you think? Do you think you're born with leadership, or do you think you develop it?
I kind of think it can be a combination of both. Mm-hmm. I think your experiences, obviously, people have aptitude to do certain things, right? I mean, as a small child, you're in construction. Maybe you were building tree forts or tearing stuff up, or a lot of times people that work on vehicles, they just had a mechanical inclination to want to do that. But I was tall, like freakishly tall. I'm only 6'3", but I was that tall, like in seventh grade. So I was always taller than Nick. The girls never caught up to me, like when those times when the boys are shorter. Mm-hmm. That didn't happen to me. And my dad was 6'6", so I was outpacing his growth chart. So what a disappointment, because I stopped growing. I thought I was NBA bound or something. And my dad almost played in the NBA. He played college basketball. But, I found myself when I got picked on and stuff, because in fourth grade I was as tall as seventh grade kids. And sometimes I had a mouth that, you're writing checks that your butt can't cash, right? So I stood up. I always stood my ground. I don't know. I think the bullying in the 80s bullying kind of helped form that personality of who I sort of was, because I had to sort of fend for myself. And but I do think your experiences bring that. Door to door was a huge life changer for me. Probably knocked 100,000 doors at people's homes. And sure, you're talking them into a newspaper subscription. Wasn't selling vacuums or Bibles or encyclopedias. But I mean, I think it sort of showed. Charisma is not about what you look like. It's about how you use your influence to get people to see your point in a way. And so, I think it's sort of both. I really do. I think some people are just born with it. I mean, John F. Kennedy Jr., back then, maybe he was growing up in that family, watching him as a kid, but he had that. So I think it's kind of a combination of two. I really do. Yeah.
On the developing side, like for you personally, how do you think you've taken initiative to develop that in yourself?
Boy, I'll tell you, if there's one thing that I think religion has done for me is the self-reflection. I mean, I grew up Catholic. So I'm guilty. I'm always feeling guilty about absolutely everything, and it's being not worthy and all those things. Those are kind of programmed into you, and I think I like the structure, of Catholicism, and I think I like to walk into the place and have all the artifacts that I grew up. But I think I'm always reevaluating, myself, and I think the thing I'm trying to do now, and don't laugh, but it's trying to apply love to every single situation
Yeah.
in traffic. And what's happening with me is, I grew up with being Catholic is, you sin and you go in and ask for forgiveness, right? I go see the guy in the booth and we talk about it. But I believe catching it in the moment, that's the toughest part, isn't it? Nope, right? And that's, for me, has been something that I've really seen. I think the Holy Spirit is helping me with that, because I see those moments, even if it's not a fight or something, just to look at things in a different, perspective. And I think that that's been something that, does that help develop into leadership? Sure, I think it's part of it, but it all goes back to that same thing, is applying love in every single situation that you find yourself in.
Yeah.
And I think that's the exploration that I'm on at almost 55.
How do you define love?
I may have to be a whole nother podcast. I mean, love means so many different things, right? I don't think there's many words that have as many definitions, because we use it a lot too. I love this coffee. Boy, it's so great. I love Fraser's. I love God. I love my wife. I love my car. I mean, there's different things. They're all not the same. But to me, love is a feeling. It reminds me kind of that inner voice that we all have, that we think we're talking to ourselves. Sometimes I wonder if you even manifest what it says, but then sometimes you'll say something to yourself and you're like, hey, that didn't come from me. At least I don't think it did.
That was far too wise to come from me.
Right. Or I'm crazy and I'm talking to myself. But, I think that love is something similar to that. And I kind of want to believe that that's the Holy Spirit, inside you, So I think love is just kind of the reminder to be kind to other people and to try to govern your actions, I mean, you can show it, you can have it. It's a verb, it's a noun. I mean, it's an adjective. It's all of those things. And I think we're on this sphere of learning, we call Earth. And so I think that's kind of what love is. I hope that's a good enough explanation for you.
Yeah. No, I think that's good. I think when I think about if somebody asked me that question, I kind of go toward the direction of I think love is putting others before yourself.
I like that.
And also giving people what they don't necessarily deserve.
That's a really big one. That's grace.
Yeah.
That's really what that is. It's grace.
So I think those two connected, give you a pretty good, solid foundation. I think you're right. I think it's kind of multifaceted there. But I think that's where it begins. When
basic premise. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that, with those premises in place, you find yourself in a spot where forgiveness needs to be kind of a regular thing, which is really hard to do, and it's an easy concept to think about, but practicing it when people be people and there's hurt involved, and then to turn around and say, I forgive you, and then not only just say I forgive you, but like
mean it
and move on from it.
That's right.
That's a whole nother thing, And I think that something that I grasp onto is just the example that I follow, which is Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
He was crucified, murdered on an unjustified accusation, and he didn't necessarily make this big scene out of it, but he's sitting there about to die,
That's
and
right.
he's like praying from his heart, forgive them because they don't know what they're doing.
They know not what they do.
Right. And so I think that's our example, which in my opinion goes far beyond feelings, just because feelings change.
Sure.
And I would argue that his feelings were driving him in the opposite direction of going against what he experienced. But he did it anyway because
Right.
he knew it had to be done.
That's right.
And so he overcame the feeling and said, no, this is what has to be done, and I'm doing it, you know. And I think, like, when we kind of dress it up a lot of the times, but, if you actually study, or you can watch, like, The Passion of the Christ, for example,
Oh, that's tough. That's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
That's
a great movie for what it is, but Jim Caviezel, I got to meet him one time, but anyways, that's a tough movie.
Yeah, I mean, that Roman practice was brutal, and I don't really think we have that as far as Americans go in our daily life. Like, we don't really experience
Carry the cross like
that type of tragedy.
Right.
We don't get to, we don't really, not that we should get to see it. I'm not saying it like that, but it just doesn't experience. It's not present in our culture.
Sure.
That level of violence and pain and suffering. But when you kind of look at that, knowing that he was determined through the suffering to finish a task for the purpose of everyone.
That's right.
It's a whole nother thing. So
Yeah, as I've gotten older too, I really reflecting when you read, the Bible. It's funny, every time you read something, you take something different from it. But I always think there was people. Pontius Pilate was Jewish, so I think it's interesting too. There was people in power that were really afraid of him. I mean,
Pontius Pilate was Jewish?
that's what I read. Yeah, that Pontius Pilate was
the first time I've heard that.
Yeah, I mean that's. Check me on it, but from what stuff I've done is that they appointed somebody in their own, he's from the Roman legions and stuff, but not a legions, but that's what I had heard. We'll check that out, but I'd read something where that he was Jewish or had half or something along those lines, but you would have thought been more sympathetic to this, but he also had to keep control of his area because if Rome heard about what was happening on the outskirts, there was going to be a problem. Yeah. And I do think that they were really afraid. When I watched The Passion of the Christ, I'm like, they didn't just crucify the guy. That'd have still been awful. I mean, the bullwhips, the walking him through, the parading him through the entire area. I mean, I think maybe it was the last time I watched The Passion of the Christ. I thought to myself, this guy wasn't just. There was fear by the people that were in charge. This guy's going to start a movement and bring in their minds some sort of instability to the empire, which we know there was, and it went bye-bye. But I always really struggled with how much that he was tortured, really, before that moment came. It's a real prevalent because he, by the power of God, could have taken care of that situation,
For sure.
right? And allowed it and died for our sins. I mean, that's the whole thing, right? So,
yeah.
I think a consideration as well, to give somebody the thought, you know what I mean? Sometimes it's just to be able to think about someone else, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You can show them love. And I know you've been hot with going door to door with these eminent domains and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And shining a light to that for the community.
Yes, sir. Accidental too. I wasn't out there looking for those people. I just was knocking doors across the district. You know? Yeah.
So you just stumbled upon all that?
Yeah. It was so organic. I mean, I had views and stuff, but I hadn't really done any videos before, and I was just doing posts and Facebook. It's a necessary evil, if you will, for running for campaign, and because we have an older electorate, that's here, and Facebook has made it through all the social medias and stuff, and I have some of the other ones. I just don't really use them. I just kind of stick to Facebook, stick to one. I can't answer questions and stuff for all the emails I get, but just knocking doors over in the Ridley Road area, and I stumbled upon a lady that I met, Cynthia, and she started to tell me about this story. Her house is beautiful, brand new. I mean, like a nice brand new home. And she's like, yeah, this is going to get torn down. Like, what? And then next thing I know, I'm walking down, along North Alexander Creek Drive, because there's the there's the thing there. And I met another person, and then I met another one, and a couple that's in their late 80s that has to get out and be new home buyers. Just the whole thing. So I don't know. I was standing next to some transmission lines, and I was like, I'm going to do a video because it was so un-American to me. You know, we all know buy a home is like the American dream, right? So I thought, my gosh, these people, especially the older folks, they were like, you know, three generation people living next to this, and they're going to lose their house. And, you know, if you don't roll your money after you sell your house into another property, you pay capital gains on it. So I'm like, my gosh, these people at the end of their lives are about to have to sign a mortgage or whatever it is, you know. And I did a video. I didn't think anything of it, you know, minute long, Tim Ryan, this seems wrong. And I think it's, you know, that was like 2 weeks ago, and it's, you know, 30,000 views for Facebook is, you know, for a little local race, was pretty big, and that just sort of unleashed it. And so I kept meeting people, and, you know, just started looking at the ordinances for how they have to notify people for stuff, and, you know.
It works out that's, you know, you notice a tendency in yourself to attach to things, to stand up for people, and then you come across something like that, and it's like it's almost a perfect fit for
yeah, I swear life shocks me more and more every day about something that you would never really think it. You know, if you said 5 years ago you're going to be advocating for people that are losing their homes over eminent domain, I would have went, what? I mean, if you'd have told me 10 years ago, there's going to be a year you're going to spend in a fifth wheel living in Coweta County. Yeah. What? I mean, it's life shows you. I mean, who knows where we'll be in 10 years or what you'll be doing in 10 years. It's, you know, we think we have our life predestined or what it's going to be, but you're right. And I didn't look at that like, oh, I'm going to exploit that. It was just an organic experience. And then once that happened, I started to hear from people in the community, and some lady emails me and says, hey, I just got this letter on April 27th about this Project Oak. On Walt Sanders, they want to put a data center here. And I went, what? And I went right over to her house. Can I come over? And I went over to her house. She handed me the letter. And so May 1st, I announce Project Oak, first one. I mean, I beat the paper. I beat all those folks, not because I wanted to, just because that's when I heard the news. I was like, I got Madras, we got a data center coming. And then another person reaches out and says, hey, there's this Project Pegasus that's happening up right next to Peach. And I'm like, what? And it just sort of happened. I mean, it was like the data center craziness was right. The wave was about to come, and I just sort of hit it like right when it was like this, you know. And then now, I mean, a week ago, I told you John Rich is getting involved. Trump's even hearing about Coweta County. I mean, it's mind-boggling, and, you know, hopefully I had some small sort of step in bringing this into light, because it all started with people losing the American dream over a data center.
Yeah. Well, I know that people are pretty split over data centers. Have you familiarized yourself with like the ins and outs? I know there's a lot of.
Ask me any question you can. I have a decent answer.
Yeah, I'm just saying, it's like, you know, there's a lot of, you know, people hype stuff up online, and it's always.
That's right.
They don't always know the full truth, and so I didn't know if through all this you've familiarized yourself with actually how they work or the truth about them. I mean, I know some people say they're devastating, but it seems kind of odd that if they're that devastating that we're going to build that many of them. I don't, it's hard for me to believe that greed is that deep. I mean, I should with the way that they do our food and everything else, but you know, I'm just saying, to me,
another topic.
Yeah.
Well, I hear you, and there's kind of a three-part that brought me to this, right? First, it was hearing about what data centers are. And it started with turning rural conservation into industrial. For me, I was like, what? You're going to tear? And there's so much of it, this beautiful land around. I'm like, man. And I heard from the people that have artesian wells for Project Peach. I went and walked the land, and I'm like, I mean, I could show you pictures. It looks like a brochure out of a National Geographic magazine, how gorgeous the land is up there in Palmetto. And so when I heard those people, you know, crying, I was like, all right, what's up with these? What's going on with data centers? And so I started to research, and I do think that there are some things that are some truths to it, and there is some hysteria over it too, but, you know, the brass tacks of it is that if you sell your property and I live next door to it, my value will go down. People don't want to live next to development sometimes, right? If they were opening up a Sam's warehouse or a warehouse next to my, you wouldn't want to be next to that. So there is sort of regardless of what it is, there's a thing living next to a development, because there's light pollution with that too, which is a big thing for me. I like sitting out and looking at satellites and stuff in the sky when I can see them. And I couldn't see that in Atlanta. I mean, the light pollution, you got lucky to see. I mean, there's no more lightning bugs in Atlanta. You forget it. So that part of it became like, all right, well, what do these things really do? And that's where I dove in. Power rates across the country, when a data center hooks up to them, they make the bills more expensive. Why? If I go buy 100 rolls of toilet paper at Sam's and I buy 10 rolls at Walmart, I'm still paying less at Sam's because it's a volume, discount, right? Well, data centers, the elephant in the room is called forced oscillation. And some deep throat guy told me from Georgia Power, I can't use his name and all that, but he explained to me that the elephant in the room with data centers is when the electricity goes in from the place, it goes in and tickles everything. It's the word I use. And then when it comes back out, the electricity is not the same as it was when it went in. And it pulses and it changes the frequency. So when it hits the generators, when it hits all the equipment outside of the data center, it wears it out more. It'd be like you driving your truck and hitting the gas, flooring it, and then letting it up, and then flooring it, and then letting it up. That will wear the engine out faster than if you drove it on a consistent basis. Well, power is very much the same. They know it happens. They can't figure out why, but the equipment, a generator is $10 million. So when they hook up, they raise rates to start putting money in the savings account to pay for when that happens. And then data centers, a lot of them don't pay the same per kilowatt hour that you and I do. They pay less. Now, I haven't heard any tax subsidies that they've been given, but then even Project Sale originally said they were going to be 137, billion or $1.3 billion. That's a ton of money. Project Oak is saying $1.8 billion into the local economy. And
is that through tax revenue, or
now it's $10 million a year, and now that number's dropping to maybe 4.7.
I'm just trying to figure out. There's not many people that work inside of those things, right?
No, and not only that, I ate with a guy at Waffle House that worked on the QTS, the one in Fayetteville, and he said most of these jobs are people that come from out of state. They chase the centers,
right?
So to even say that local construction workers are going to get that work, so if we're not really getting the local workers, you're going to raise power rates. Water always is going to be an issue. Water's more expensive than gasoline per gallon. Right. Okay, so when I go and buy a jug of water, and you'll see, it's like $4 or $5, so it's more than gas. So if you think about it, resources are important. Less than the whole planet has less than 0.5% of drinking water, and we're using good water to do these things. So when you just look at the totality of it, I'm waiting to hear the good. I'm waiting to see, all right, what do you got? Because so far, I think that the good, okay, so Coweta gets some money. That's the other part of it is what does that mean for you and I to get that? Okay, Coweta gets some, and I know that they need it. You see what groceries are. I can only imagine running a county is going to be more expensive, but what does that bring to us? Well, it'll help lower our taxes. Well, that's a platitude. I need a specific about what this is going to do, and you don't ever seem to really get that. The other thing is, we won't pay taxes until we finish all the buildings. Well, that might take 10 years, and you're already processing on the ones that you finish. So I just start to think that there's a lot of those things. Cigarettes we knew were bad for us forever, but it took the tobacco lawsuit before they finally broke that stuff out. And if these things have health risks, which I think there's some argument to the EMPs that are happening with them. Well, if there's 5,600 of them in the United States already, and there's people living by them, and we're already there, what do you think would happen if all of a sudden NASA or somebody came out with a study that says, look, this is creating problems with people's lives? What are you going to do? And I do think that human beings have a way to just sort of let that tolerate, I'm talking tinfoil hat stuff here, so I get it, but there is a lot of data, you kind of take the extreme on one side and the extreme on the other side, and I bet you somewhere in the middle is really where the truth lies. So that's kind of what I think about it, but turning rural conservation, and being right next to people's homes. Like in Madras, the people that live there, they're not buying anybody's homes. They're just going to be this little island of in between campuses. I mean, they call it a campus, which I think is funny. That's a place of learning.
Yeah.
And it's a data center campus. There's no learning going on there. So the people on Walt Sanders are going to be in an island. And, if you want to build one on Bridgeport, man, there's already, you go down there, I drove down there, and Amazon, there's a new one right next door to it. I don't know who's going to inhabit it, but you should drive down there and see it. When you stand down there and look at these buildings, Amazon's a bit different because it has people all over the place. But this next one that they have, it's a ghost town. It's finished, but nobody's occupied it yet. And to stand there and see that much concrete and to know how much land that they had to wipe out, I mean, it makes you feel dirty. I don't know how else to explain it. There's just something about like, man, this is a behemoth. I mean, like, when the zombie apocalypse comes, you can go in this place and you'd have enough room to have a Indy 500 track inside that place. It's just, you could live in that thing. It's so big. And so, there's something about that. But in the sense, it's already set. There's nobody living around by that. It's in the middle of nothing. So, that to me would be a better candidate, for it because you've already taken all the woods and everything. But I mean, you're not near people. You're not going to, devalue homes or have somebody worry about it because it's there.
Bridgeport, yeah.
Yeah, in Bridgeport, and Grantville, Mayor Proctor told me he wants 2 down there. Similar situation. He's got a bunch of industrial, but I have a feeling there's going to be some neighbors down there for that one,
They need a grocery store down there.
Yeah, they're just, I thought next to the Frasers down there that they were building one, and it's another warehouse.
Yes,
I was like, oh, there's going to build a Publix here. No, that's one thing about Coweta County. Why does D.C. always seem to be what we get? Data centers and distribution centers. Yeah. Yamaha, God bless them. What would we do without, or Hoshizaki and some of these other manufacturers that are here? But those are not easy businesses to bring. And I think, the battery plant would have been a really good thing for us. I was really, and it's nothing that Coweta did. It's just they just decided to not get that business. But boy, that would have been another situation.
So with the data centers, like, the one question that, well, it's not, I don't know if it's a question, but we'll walk through it. So obviously it's something that there's billions of dollars being spent on it, right? And so that's something that obviously there's a need because somebody's invested in it a lot. And obviously that we're going toward a new era of technology that, I don't even think all of us have really got our minds wrapped around, AI, is one thing that, like, I think the common person uses it to, like, write some fancy sounding emails and stuff.
Make funny pictures.
Yeah. And then, like, I want my house to look like this and let's dress it up, and then you get to tell it what to do and it does it, so, but really, like, that's just like a fraction of what it can do, for what's coming down the pipeline for the future. So I based on kind of just my narrow knowledge, when you take the infrastructure, for example, with like Georgia DOT, they'll do this study of people movement and where people are coming, and they try to anticipate, hey, there's going to be growth, in these areas. So let's kind of get the infrastructure ready to a certain point before they get here, right? And so they'll build roads or like Interstate 85. That was a whole project for anticipation of, we know that Atlanta's going to grow the suburbs and all that. It's going to
urban planning.
Right. There's no way around it because people are coming. So they're trying to get ahead of it. I feel as if data centers are that, where like they're newer. They've been around probably for a while, but like, but most people, I guess, around here are kind of like just now hearing about them. And so I kind of feel like it's like same planet as the infrastructure thought process, where it's like we're getting ahead of the demand that we know is coming. And so if that's the truth, and that, it's coming, no matter what we do, then how do you plan strategically? And the answer that I always hear is like, well, designate the spots that it needs to go, so that those areas won't affect, like you've said, like homes and people like that. The challenge with that, though, is that we live in America, and
America.
the private sector, people can put a for sale sign up on their property at any given point, and they can have 500 acres, and that is enticing to people who are about to spend billions. So how does that get managed in a responsible way?
Well, I think the thing that in your example of infrastructure, once the infrastructure, the road, the highway, things that we're used to, what eminent domain has done, it's a limited number of individuals, and they typically got, I'm sure someone will call on the show and say, "Oh no, I got screwed in the '80s." Well, typically it's a lot less people, and they do a really good job. I remember when 400 went into, Atlanta, when they did that. I remember talking to a family way back when, and they got taken very well care of to get rid of their house, But I think the data center piece is that once the guy with the for sale sign puts his house there, right? I mean, sells his land there and does it. It doesn't just stop there. The eminent domain now will do whatever it needs to do to create this spider web. I mean, the Wansley transmission line is crossing 35 miles, affecting 330 properties and taking 21 homes in Coweta County. That's just the one main line that's going to power Project Peach and helping to power QTS. If Coweta County is looking at 7 or 8 data centers, how many more of those spiderweb lines are going to cross? And so I think the data centers are setting a precedent that we haven't seen before with eminent domain particularly. So, and the other thing I think, and I agree with you a lot, but I think they need to say what it is. Why? People are a lot more prone to understanding something. When you were a kid and they told you don't do something and you said why, and they say because I said so, how did that work with you? Did that resonate well with you? No, you're sitting here right now and you're like, no, I hated saying that. And of course you love to say it to your kids because it's the way that the cycle of life works. But you didn't learn to not touch the stove because mom and dad told you it. You got burnt. Maybe small, but you had to experience it for yourself. And I think if you tell people, tell us what's going on with data centers. I tend to think that the population's declining, which is weird. I just can't even believe it. Another thing, 10 years ago, if you told me that the government would start paying people to have kids, I would have went, you're cracked. It's happening. Trump's giving this up to $2,000 for each kid. And it's not just for a savings account for their lives. It's paying to get more people. The United States has to repopulate at about 1.8 kids. I don't know how you get 0.8 a kid, but 1.8 kids per family to just maintain what we have. I think it's 1.8. Europe's going through the same thing. I think they need 1.7. And some of the communities over there are repopulating at 5.5. That's going to be Constantinople, man, if in 50 years. France is going through that big time. Not enough Frenchmen or women are having natives are having kids, and people that settle there from other cultures are having them a much faster rate. So I kind of start to think that automation is a part of it. Give you an example of the trash collection here in Coweta, which is all privatized, right? So when the guy comes, sometimes there's just one guy on the truck, and the thing picks it up and dumps it. And sometimes they have another guy that'll hop out and have to help certain situations. But that could easily be a robot, right? A robot could be on the truck and, I spilled something over here, and it'll get out and pick it up. Well, then what's to say really quickly that we don't need a driver for that? This whole thing could be automated. And part of me thinks that we're preparing, if you look at the birth rate, and we need more people to do stuff, and we're automating more things, you need terabytes worth of processing to make that happen. I mean, Georgia Tech came out with a study years ago because Atlanta's got some of the worst traffic in the United States. And I remember reading a study that Tech said that if human beings were removed from driving the vehicles, and it was a coordinated effort by an AI entity, like when the light turns red, you go, then I go, then you go, and we probably could get 20 more cars through there if we all moved at the same time, right, as a herd. But we can't do that as humans. Well, AI could do that. You could take 8 times the traffic. With the same roads in Atlanta, it could handle 8 times the traffic. So I kind of am starting to think that having that kind of processing on that level, and they see something that we don't see, and maybe it'll scare people. I don't know. It's the same reason why they won't talk about the UFOs, is because it'll destabilize our whole way of life, and there's a whole religious aspect of that, right? I mean, I guess you could say if you believe in that. But I kind of wish that they would have a program to explain why you need so many. China, we got to beat them. Well, they have 600. We have 5,400 actively working data centers in the United States. That's more than the whole world combined. So we're hitting a home run already. I think they need to share why you want it so much. And World War II, when they were doing the metal drive, people were coming out of their homes and putting pots and pans and old silverware in there because we needed bullets and bombs and ammunition. They had a reason to support it. They knew what it meant, so they were willing to sacrifice something. And I don't think anybody has any rhyme or reason as what the heck's going on with this stuff. And they're so huge. I mean, just a lot of unknowns that I think we need to share with taxpayers and private property right owners to what's going on. Get us on board. Tell us what you're not telling us.
Yeah. I know. I guess my question would be, if if you get elected, do you think you'd be more transparent than we have in the past with things and listen to the constituents a little bit more?
Absolutely. I'll give you an example that just found this out. So Herring Farms is I don't know if you know where it is. It's a nice little neighborhood off of Herring Road. It's got it used to be I think it was all that land was there's still a horse barn there, and it's a working horse.
It's right after you cross over the railroad track.
Yeah, I think it's Southern Crescent. I think it's right there too.
Yeah.
Well, when I was looking at this rezoning that happened to connect, like I was telling you, to connect Coweta or the Patillo Industrial Road to the Shenandoah one, if you look at it on a satellite, oh my gosh, a little short road will connect both of those things. And now with them wanting to put the extra interchange off 85, well, that'll get a lot of surface traffic. I mean, off the roads, right? Makes sense. But when that zoning went through, it wasn't just about a road. It was about 2.5 or 3 million more buildings. I think one of them is 750,000 square foot building. If that was 300 feet from your house, would you like that? And so the way that the ordinance is, and Coweta County broke no laws, but they put an ad in the Times-Herald, which does a good job of posting everything, but that's a paid subscription. Not everybody takes the Times-Herald. Yeah. That's one. Two, they posted signs. I saw them. They put them where they were supposed to be, but they'll just say rezoning, and it doesn't say of what. It's like NZ 11645, rezoning with some QR code that you can't use your phone when you drive. So how are you supposed to kind of capture that? So that's strange. And then they're only supposed to notify people that are 250 by law, by the ordinance, 250 feet from the project. So 52 people live in Herring Farms. That's going to affect all of them. They're going to hear the 3,000 trucks a day, and I think that's what the traffic study said, that are going to drive up and down that road. But only 2 people, and the HOA person was supposed to be notified, but they didn't get a certified mail, so you just have to say, yeah, we did it. We put a stamp on it and sent it. We all know, God bless them, bless their hearts, that the Postal Service, just that Palmetto station alone.
They own the struggle bus.
So, I can't, why not send a certified letter so that you can prove that you sent it? And so that's something that if I knew it was coming, I would want to change the ordinance so that more people know, Heck, I'm even starting to come into the situation where I think data centers should be referendum voting. I'm not even sure that I think that much power, rezoning your house or something like that, that's looking out. But this affects so many people and is such a big issue. I'm starting to think that this should be of something that gets voted on by the people, like a SPLOST project, right? You decide it yourself. Well, if a data center is going to go there, because even if it happens in one district, that's still going to affect everybody's water supply or whatever it is. So I almost think every district, you could say, well, every commissioner has a say. Well, sometimes in this vote that I'm telling you about, my commissioner recused himself because by marriage he was related to somebody that was selling the road, the land there. Good people, but part of that same 50 people that run Coweta County, own, run, build. And so I kind of think the people, need to be the ones that sort of decide that stuff. And that's making something a referendum vote is a big deal, but I wouldn't be opposed to that. But being more transparency, that's something I would do. I would see, hey, well, our ordinance only says the things that I told you. I'd like, hey, commissioner team, I'd like to make sure we send a notice to everybody in Herring Farms. Yeah. I think they should get a chance to have their say in that, because they're certainly not happy that they didn't get this chance. And they're certainly not happy that the HOA president never got a letter. Not that it didn't go out, but the letter didn't hit their mailbox.
Yeah.
So they're not happy about it.
Yeah. So, I guess if you were elected, what would be the top 3 things that you would want to affect the most, or that you would say walk away from, and say, I'm glad that I was able to make some kind of change in these areas.
Yeah, 4 years later, if I only do one term, what could I say I did? I think the data center, all the things that we've been talking about here, and I think the transparency to it. How come my little old video was the first time people in Madras found out about the data center? Right? How did this little letter, there should be a better way. In fact, the sign for it is if you've ever been down Walt Sanders Road, it's pretty, but it's woodsy on my video, and they mandatorily put their sign where it's supposed to be, but shouldn't it be at the front of 29? I mean, there's residents that don't drive down Walt Sanders Road, so they'll never see that they live on it, but they don't drive to the dead end, so how would they see the sign, So I think more transparency in development is important. I'd like to amend the ordinance. I could say, hey, I changed an ordinance that is now everybody gets to see it. And I think that maybe hey, I was part of getting the data center, because it's going to be around for a while, that I helped to get that into a referendum, that's now the citizens are allowed to vote for that. And I think the last thing is I'd really like to see, and I'm not knocking on them, but we can do a better job at the Coweta County Development Authority. We really need to do a better job. I want some accountability with ROI, like, you get a certain budget a year to bring prospects into Coweta. Well, I need to see some metrics about how do we measure the job that you did, just like anybody else. If you're in sales and you don't close deals, you're not going to be working there for very long. So I kind of think it's the same thing there. I'd like to see that. So those would be the top 3 things that I think would be important, and responsible growth and transparency, and it sort of bleeds over to the data centers, transparency with a referendum vote for data centers.
Yeah.
I think it's important.
Now, are there any businesses you'd like to see come here? You got any ideas as far as like who you'd like to bring in, like business wise? And when you say, the department like that, I'm just saying, do you have any ideas when you think of that?
I tell you what, you can't go back, but I wish I'd have been around when Yamaha was choosing where to put their headquarters, because dang it, I think we could have beat Kennesaw. Tell you what, I mean, I know you got to own a gun to live in Kennesaw. I think that's an old law that they have there. It's like mandatory. I have some friends up there, but
heck yeah,
and and I know they're a good community, but it just makes sense. They're down here. They could have moved to Trilith. I mean, they need some new blood down there, and that would have been a great place to put the headquarters. And so I'm really interested, and I know there'll be people that are better suited for it, but I would like to see, it's sort of the platitude. I'd like to bring in something that pays good jobs and, all that stuff, but it's true. And I think there's some industries, I mean, 5 years from now, there might be an industry that we don't even know about, but I do think that part of that data center is that manufacturing jobs. I think the United States is going to come back to be the manufacturing segment of the world again, like we were. And we're going to have that because here's a plant that if the setup on it, the computers it just takes a couple days for them to get set up, and they won't just build like a car plant. They can build cars, you name it. These computers will be able to build anything that they want. And so they'll be super expensive. But if you only have one plant that can build 27 different things, I mean, you name it, it builds it there because the automation will be able to handle that. There won't be as much tooling set up and all the things when human beings are involved. There's no jobs really for that. I mean, when robots are building robots, I mean, it sounds like the Terminator or something, but yeah. I think it's coming. And with the inkjet, with the printers, I mean, that guy, that crazy that shot that banker, a few months ago, that the good-looking guy that shot the banker in broad daylight, he manufactured his own weapon on a 3D printer.
Wow.
I mean, he didn't buy the bullet was still, legit, but he made his own weapon. So what's to tell you that these manufacturing segments won't just create from scratch what it is that they're going to make? And so I think it's tough to say. I think the Development Authority has a big task ahead of them to bring. It's not just as easy as, oh, well, you're not doing your job. I hear their cry, but I do think we got to find ways to bring this. Now everybody doesn't want to pay property taxes, and that's the thing in the media now. Property taxes are going to go away. Cool, but what's going to replace that income, right? You have to find a way to replace it, or you're going to feel it. You're going to see it. And, government is Coweta County's biggest employer. The school system's the biggest employer here, followed by the government. So if you Think about that. That's where most people work. I mean, it's wild to think that. So
Maybe that'll shift.
I think people will pay them a fair wage. They'll work anywhere. You know,
Automation could file permits, couldn't it?
that's right. That's right. I mean, there's always going to be supervisors there, but I mean, I think the next industry too is tractor trailer. That's a good living. Well, if I can get a computer to drive, I'll even slow it down. It'll drive 45 or 50 miles an hour in the slow lane. It won't complain. It won't change lanes. It won't have to rest. It'll drive 24 hours a day at a slower speed and do the job. That's coming. I mean, and think about how many people are truck drivers. A lot. It's a good paying job. I mean, you're on the road a lot, but it's a good paying job. I talked to a lot of them when I was taking showers at the Pilot. And I don't see how that job is not coming real soon to being threatened. So just think about a lot of people work in service, because service-based businesses are vital here in the service industry. But some of those are the first ones, I think, that when AI reaches that level, when all the data centers are built, when we have 15,000 instead of 5,400, it won't be somebody using it to write a paper, which I've now decided I can tell when people are using AI. I'm telling you, you can read it and you're like, you didn't write that. There's too many M dashes in that thing. You know what I mean? And it always says if something's not this, it's that. I mean, it's funny how AI is, but there is a fear there, because what are we going to do? I mean, maybe space travel is the way where people are going to start making, because we need more humans to be there. But I think Elon Musk said it is the only way we travel to the stars is through AI. AI doesn't need to sleep, eat, poop, and if we made it, it'll represent who we are, I guess. I never thought science fiction would be like that. But I mean, as a kid, if you'd have told me that I'd be, that I'd have this, I would have went, nah, man, Captain Kirk uses a CB, man, he flips it open. I mean, look at the Star Wars hologram. It's all blurry, but I can call the space station from this thing. You know what I mean? That's my daughter. There's Emmy. She's a pretty girl. Yeah, I think AI is scary because it's just, we don't know what it is. I knew what 85 was going to be, when it got built, right? You knew it. It's a road. Yeah. It's tangible. I see it. But this AI commitment, it's happening without us really knowing why, and I think Americans are scared, and they should be. And religiously, what fear does, right? Fear is where all the bad happens. Yeah. I just don't know how I can express all that love yet to data centers.
Yeah. And I guess let me ask you this too: how important is it for you to build relationships with other bodies or governing bodies around Coweta? And are you working on building relationships with others?
Yeah, I think just my door-to-door is a big measure of what that is. I mean, I've never heard of commissioners running for office, let alone a lot of politicians, unless they're doing it for a photo op. My AJC years probably helped me with that, being comfortable, going door-to-door. But meeting the voters is what it is. I'm not a son of Noonan, if you will, so I had to go out and kind of show people. But I think it's important that, relationships are important, and of course, using love in every situation is there, but just because you're assertive doesn't mean you're aggressive. Just because you're confident doesn't mean you're cocky. And I think we've kind of seen a chance in that. But I do think working with people is important. But I also think that it doesn't mean you have to lose your backbone, either. Yeah. And I think it's important to have that, that balance. And I think transparency helps that. If you're out in the open and everything's right there to see, well, then you get to be the judge. Getting to know the commissioners, I broke bread with Al Smith. I, bought him Goldens one night after a commissioner meeting, and I've seen Bill McKenzie at just about everything, and he's like the board commissioner dad. I mean, he reminds me of somebody that could be like my pa or something. Yeah. He's not much older than I am, but I think him being a warden and all that stuff, he sort of has a mother hen, kind of feel to him. I think he's a good man. And so, I think building relationships is important, but I also think sometimes when you have to stand up when others are sitting down, I think that's important too, to stand up for Coweta. Not upset people, but, well, some people get upset when you call out what's happening. I mean, truth is a very revealing thing sometimes, but I do think it's important, and anger's easy, I think, sometimes to fall into, and it's a lot harder to use the approach of love to do it. And I told you we're all working on that. I'm working on that. But yeah, I think relationships are important. But I don't want that to be. I'm not going to bend my opinion or something for someone's getting their house because we weren't nice. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, is a letter from Georgia Power telling you in the nicest language it can that you have to be out of your house in 3 months and we're here to negotiate? I don't care how nice you say that or how much relationship or how good the guy from Georgia Power or whoever it is that comes over. It still is what it is.
Yeah.
Right? I don't care what the package that delivers it. It's still, the reality is it's taking somebody's home. So yeah.
Sweet. So I guess before we get out of here, do you want to kind of sum up maybe the four pillars that you would summarize your campaign with, or why you're going after this?
This policy that I've tried to, this plan is just really kind of simple. I try to keep Coweta first, right? And what's that mean? It just means, number one, protecting and preserving the rural character of Coweta County. I can't tell you how many times I run into people that have been here their whole lives, and I can only imagine they've seen mud roads turn to paved. They've seen pasture lands turn into neighborhoods. I mean, I can only imagine. I saw Stone Mountain in my time just disappear.
Yeah.
But sometimes I don't want them to be disheartened because there's still a lot here, and it's a damn fine county, and it's worth the save. And some of the older generation is like, you know how that is. So preserve rural character of Coweta County. Why I moved here. I didn't move here because it was cruddy.
Right.
But I think that's important. Full transparency in government from the top to the bottom, I think is really important. I need some more fiscal responsibility. I know the commissioners don't have anything to do with the school system, and I love our school system, but when 67 cents of every dollar in tax revenue goes to the school system, and we have an increased student population in 12 years. That's weird to hear, but it's true. They need to show some fiscal discipline there too. And I know they're the largest employer, so you're not trying to lay people off. But in our households, when bills get more expensive, we're on a fixed income essentially. I don't get to go and say, hey, I need a raise. I mean, sometimes you get a raise, I get it. But overall, what do? You tighten the belt, man. You figure out what you have to do to move your monies around. And maybe you don't play 6 sports, son, and we're only going to play 4. Whatever it is, we tighten the belt. And I think we need to really evaluate and do the books here and see what can we do to kind of help save. Even if we're in a good economy, I think you do that. I think it's important. Really, lastly, I'm kind of covering all the tenets for you, but I think really lastly is to find out, get some development here, because that word is a bad word, but get some development, and growth is too, But growth, if cancer's growing on you, that's a bad growth. If your daughter grows 3 inches over the summer, you're like pumped up, right? Yeah. So growth is perspective. But I think we need some growth that doesn't overwhelm Coweta and complements it, and what that looks like, we're still trying to find it, right? But don't overwhelm Coweta, and I think Coweta's been overwhelmed. I mean, when I was on Tommy Lee Cook, my God, it's turning into 29. I mean, there's so many neighborhoods up there. Genesee's a monster. And I know that's where our tax revenue is. We're 70% residential. So that's who pays a lot of the bills, right, is the residences. So I'd like to really see a strong development authority to try to bring in different ways to bring money into Coweta County. And I think one of the ways, too, is softball tournaments, baseball tournaments. The rodeo's awesome. The Alan Jackson concert I read about, awesome. Those are some different ways to bring revenue into the county that, I mean, the amount of building you'd have to do for some of that stuff is peanuts compared to data centers and all this other stuff. So I think there's some ways that we could help some stuff. I mean, Troup County gets $500,000 out of a baseball tournament through hotels and restaurants and, gas stations and stuff. And
yeah, it'd be cool to see an amphitheater or something like that here that hosts, bigger. I know they have like Wadsworth Auditorium, but I'm saying like an actual venue.
Be good for a widespread concert or something.
Right,
but I mean, I think it's important to bring some of those things. And I think for according to the development, those are pennies on the dollar to what we're going to be giving up for that. And I think I know someone would, if we're on a call show, they'd call in and be like, well, don't forget this. There's other ideas. But I think that there's some tax revenue generating ideas that isn't business per se. Look at the porch fest that they do. Man, that's turned into something really awesome.
Yeah.
And there's some ways to capitalize on some more income, for the county and for stuff like that. So I think outside the box finances are what's going to help Coweta County too. I really do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, yeah, you want to kind of just remind people when the voting times are? Or?
Yeah, well, the early voting was from the 27th of April, and it runs till the 15th, which is this Friday. Polls close at 7 usually, and well, no, I don't know if it's 7. Yeah, maybe it's 7. I know they close on 7 on Election Day, which is the 19th. But the Friday before Election Day is the last one, and so it's the primary. So I'm almost certain there's going to be a runoff on a lot of different elections. With governor, I know everybody's like, who we voting for, and I'm hoping that they're going to have debates to segment out who wins it. Hopefully, I won't have to deal with a runoff, and I'll just win it outright. But the 19th is it. I recommend everybody tries to go and vote before then, because I think it's going to be long lines at the voting polls, just because of how they're talking about this is going to be the most voted on primary, they think, in Georgia State's history, because look how many people are on the ballot. We've never seen this many people running for governor. So I think that get your votes in, get there early. The Shenandoah complex does a great job, and then the one over on Literary Lane, over there by the soccer fields, is where they have it. And if I win, I want to also have next time voting on the other side of the Great Wall of China, which is 85, because it seems like the two voting polls are just on one side of the county, and the other people have to cross that to get here, and sometimes that's tough for older generation to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate you guys having me on today, by the way. Masculine Revolution.
Jeremy, got any closing thoughts?
No, I'm good. I think it was good.
Nice.
Covered it.
He's practicing with love right here, right now. He's giving it. I like it.
Well, yeah, man, appreciate you coming on, and hopefully this is if anybody that's listening kind of answers some questions that they might have for you. But yeah, I appreciate you coming on, man. As always, y'all can reach out to us at Masculine Revolution on Facebook. Until next time,
join the family.
Yes, sir.
God bless.